The program is about to begin. Please return to your seats and silence your phones.
"76% of the world's population lives under an authoritarian regime. Tyranny doesn't survive on violence. It survives on silence. With one voice crushed, one truth denied, one lie accepted. In 2005, the Human Rights Foundation was founded with a clear purpose: to unite people in the common cause of defending human rights and promoting liberal democracy in the world's most closed societies. From the start, HRF focused where others looked away. We ensure prisoners of conscience are never forgotten. In the past 21 years, we've defended more than 150 prisoners of conscience across 38 countries. We've freed nearly 40. When celebrities take a dictator's money, we name them publicly, and they cancel their appearances thanks to HRF's private advocacy and public letters. Our documentaries shine a light on some of the most egregious human rights abuses worldwide. We call out the fashion industry for using forced labor. When art becomes a crime, we defend artists, from Beijing to Tehran, from Havana to Pyongyang. We've smuggled 140,000 flash drives into North Korea to show its people another way of living. Tyranny adapts, so do we. We arm activists with the tools dictators can't stop: encrypted messaging, Bitcoin, open source AI. We put tech in the hands of the people fighting back. With billions of media impressions, we've made tyranny impossible to ignore. And to hold regimes accountable, we built the Tyranny Tracker to name every authoritarian regime hiding in plain sight and track them over time. Each June, we create a community of dissidents against tyranny. HRF hosts the Oslo Freedom Forum, the essential gathering of dissidents, philanthropists, artists, opposition leaders, policymakers, and journalists, to learn from each other and grow so that we can all challenge tyranny. 21 years, one mission: to challenge authoritarianism and boost the voices of those silenced by tyranny.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Oslo Freedom Forum. We're here to make tyranny impossible to ignore. We're here to do the work that will determine whether the next generation lives in freedom. Dismantling dictatorship isn't a single act. It's a structural process, sustained, patient, over time. And in the last year, we've seen its effect. Good news have emerged from places like Hungary and Bolivia, where the opposition prevailed despite unfair elections. And in Bangladesh, which held its first election since the people ended the rule of Hasina. But there is a hard truth we should confront. Today, 3 out of every 4 people on this planet still live under authoritarian rule. In Venezuela, though Maduro is gone, freedom has not yet arrived. And in Iran, the man who ruled for over half a century is gone. But the system he built is still in place, and the people, the Iranians, are still getting killed for resisting it. Because authoritarian power isn't just a ruler, it's a system. It teaches fear, it corrupts truth, it captures institutions. It makes you believe that resistance is useless. So removing a tyrant is never enough. The work is more complex than that. It requires understanding how these systems hold, how they adjust, how they absorb shocks, and then learning how to take them apart. So the wall is still standing. But because of the dissidents who confront these systems, who challenge these systems every day, the facade is cracking. Many of them are here today in this room, and you'll hear from them. This morning, you'll hear from Luati Berau. He sings songs and writes songs against the dictatorships in Angola, because he knows that music travels where journalists cannot, and it touches people's heart in a way the regime cannot stop. You'll hear from Sergei Tianovsky. He became a political prisoner in Belarus because he dared to challenge a dictator who has clung to power for over 3 decades. And you'll meet other incredible speakers. They work under extreme pressure. They take risks most of us will never be asked to take. But they still do it. They work under pressure designed to isolate them, to break them, to exhaust them. But they're not waiting for the system to change. They're dismantling it, piece by piece, lie by lie. And sometimes, against every expectation, they win. Maria Corina Machado proved that even a rigged system can be pierced by courage, by discipline, and democratic conviction. She organized an entire country, mobilized it, defeated Maduro at the ballot box, and paid the price for refusing to bend. Last December, the Nobel Committee honored that courage. Here, just a short walk from this theater. These are the people you came here to meet. And this is what the next days are about. So one thing I ask of you as we begin: do not be a spectator. The forum is not about or only about what happens from the stage. The forum is about what happens between you, in the hallway conversations, in the connections that will outlast this week. Find someone whose work you didn't know about yesterday. Offer what you have. A resource, your time, a skill, a platform. Leave with a new ally, a new strategy you didn't come with. And listen for opportunities and insights into how these systems hold and how they fail. Dictatorships do collapse. Eventually, every one of them does. What comes after depends on whether free people had already begun to build it. That work is underway. It is happening in this room, and we are undaunted. Welcome to the Oslo Freedom Forum, and thank you.
ممنونم. مرسی. مرسی. Every morning before I rise, I reach for my phone. Not out of routine, out of dread. I dread the posts of more innocent lives taken by the regime in my country, Iran. I dread the news that the international community has once again thrown those murdering our people a lifeline. My breath catches as I revisit the chats from those inside Iran that started with, "This might be my last message," wondering, have they survived or have their lives too been taken? Before I go on, I'd like to address what some of you might be thinking. My family name often leads to assumptions, so I'll be absolutely clear. My father's goal and ours as a family is singular: a transition to free and fair elections in which Iranians decide their future. We are not fighting for a throne, we are fighting for freedom for a people who have been denied it for 47 years. I have never set foot in my country, I have never walked its streets, touched its soil, or watched the sun rise over the mountains of the place my family still calls home. This was never my choice. Exile is one of the many punishments this regime has imposed, not only on my family, but on millions of Iranians scattered across the globe. I grew up on my grandmother's stories of Iran. She spoke of a nation with streets full of color, alive with music, art, debate, ambition, and possibility. An Iran that was a pillar of peace, prosperity, and stability for the region, and an ally to the Western world. For many years, those stories felt almost mythical to me, like fragments of a lost civilization. Then, when social media came about, I began to receive messages, hundreds, and then thousands. A direct line was established for the first time between me and the people. Every day, they ask me to be their voice. That is why I'm here, because I owe it to the people of Iran to speak when they have been silenced. Last summer, I stood beside my father in Munich at the Convention of National Unity for Iran. Representatives of all political factions, faiths, and regions gathered to form the broadest coalition of Iranian opposition forces ever assembled, united not by politics, but by a love of Iran and a belief in the sovereignty of its people. Throughout that day, mothers and fathers whose children had been killed by the Islamic Republic approached my father. They looked into his eyes, embraced him, and wept on his shoulder. By the end of the evening, his jacket was soaked with their tears. I have thought about that jacket many times since. That is what 47 years of carrying people's pain looks like. His mission has always been the same: a democratic, secular Iran where power belongs to the people whose tears soaked that jacket. Because what calls itself the Islamic Republic of Iran is not a government. Governments govern. They serve and protect their citizens. The Islamic Republic is an occupying force, exploiting Iranian soil, Iranian resources, and Iranian lives to consolidate its own power and export its ideology. What government turns a nation's clean water into mud in one of the most resource-rich countries on earth? What government drives the exchange rate from 70 rials to 1.5 million to the dollar in 2 generations? What government leaves half a nation below the poverty line while funding militias from Gaza to Yemen? What government builds armies not to protect the people, but to oppress them? All of you know the name Mahsa Amini. You know that 4 years ago, she was beaten to death for showing some of her hair. You know her murder sent millions into the streets. You know the world, for a moment, said her name with Iranians. But then the world moved on. Do you know what came after? That the protests never stopped, they grew. That Iranians took everything the regime threw at them and kept going. That quality of life continued to deteriorate to the point where life no longer felt like life at all. In January, my father called them out once more, peaceful, unarmed, and millions took to the streets, a sea of light ready to overcome the darkness. That was when the regime responded by cutting the internet. They slaughtered more than 40,000 Iranians, one by one, indiscriminately in the dark, in the streets, on their balconies, and even in their homes. They executed the wounded in hospitals. They persecuted the doctors who dared to help them. Melina Asadi was 3 years old when she was killed in her father's arms in Kermanshah. 3 years old. Those who left their homes for the last time on January 8th and 9th died making it absolutely clear. The Islamic Republic has no mandate, no legitimacy, no right to speak for Iran. They died for a future they would not see. They died for freedom. Despite knowing all of this, Norway, the country that awards the Nobel Peace Prize, sent its deputy foreign minister to sit across from their murderers in Tehran on day 75 of a nationwide internet blackout, not to deliver an ultimatum, not to demand accountability, but to offer recognition. When you shake hands with murderers while their victims are silenced in the dark, you do not just abandon those victims, you become complicit in their erasure. At my father's press conference in Berlin, grieving parents stood before 150 members of the international press, broken but brave, representing their murdered children. Not one journalist asked them a single question. They chose to disregard the Iran that was standing right in front of them. Many criticize the war on the Islamic Republic, but what about the war it is waging on its own people? Too many cite confidential regime sources and platform its members, but ignore its victims. What gets reported is the story the regime wants told. When access is the currency, truth becomes the price. This is how people get erased, not only by violence, but by indifference. I want to tell you about Saleheh Akbari. She was 38 years old, a nurse, a wife, a mother. During the January uprising, she and her husband opened their home to wounded protesters who were too terrified to go to hospitals. She treated wounds in her kitchen. She hid students in her apartment. One night, regime forces stormed her home. She was shot and killed in front of her child. Even after her death, the cruelty continued. Regime forces sexually assaulted her body and sent images to her husband. Psychological torture designed to break what was left of him. Afterward, their daughter kept asking why her mother's shoes were still by the door. That detail has stayed with me. A little girl waiting. I'm not here to ask you to care. Caring is passive. I'm here to ask you to choose. There is no neutral handshake. You are either standing with 92 million Iranians fighting for freedom, or you are shaking the bloody hands of those murdering them. Many are worried about what comes next, but the path of the revolution is clear. At the people's call, my father and his growing coalition are ready for the transition. The Iran Prosperity Project is a transparent, publicly available roadmap to rebuild Iran. We have done the work. Iran's future is not a hope. It has a plan. The ancient Zoroastrian tradition teaches that the world is held in the eternal struggle between light and darkness, and that every act of courage, however small, is a flame lit against that darkness. Every time you say their names, you light a flame. Every time you refuse to let the world look away, you light a flame. This regime can cut the internet. They can shoot into crowds. They can disappear bodies. But they cannot extinguish 92 million flames, and they cannot silence the people in this room. I have spent my whole life outside Iran, separated from my brothers and sisters inside by a revolution we did not choose. But I will not let our people be separated from the world's conscience. Every morning I reach for that phone, I'm reminded of the bravery of Iranians. Somewhere in Iran tonight, a little girl is still standing at a door, waiting for her mother who is never coming home. Mothers are still holding the body bags. Teenagers still await their executions. Tens of millions of people are still sitting in the dark, wondering if anyone outside even remembers they exist. The question is, will you fight with them? Long live Iran, long live the Iranian people. Thank you.
1 year ago, I was in a punishment cell, only 6 square meters. I was sentenced to 20 years in prison. I spent 5 years in solitary confinement. But today, I'm free, thanks to God and thanks to American diplomacy. Before 2020, I had everything. My own business, a family, children, a home, friends. Many people would say I was lucky, that I had everything one could want. For many people, this is the goal in life. But one day I understood, life is not only about you, it is about what you do for others. I traveled a lot. I met people from many countries. Only then did I understand what was wrong in my country. I saw that people had no real rights, that we were living a lie, and often we didn't even see it. I faced this myself. I saw how officials abuse their power. So I started to look for a way to change it. In 2019, I created a YouTube channel called The Country to Live In. I used it to show these problems and to look for solutions. My channel grew very fast. Soon, people started coming to me and shared their stories. I traveled across the country. I met ordinary people, and I gave them a chance to speak. In every small town, there were lines of people. They were waiting to speak into my mic. At the same time, the state media presented a different picture. They showed a country with no problems, a country where everyone was happy. But what I saw was completely different. These were two parallel realities. Slowly, I understood one thing. Nothing will change unless you change the system. In Belarus, power is in the hands of one man. He controls the courts, he controls the parliament, he controls the media. This is not a democracy. It only looks like one. When I started showing this, I was arrested again and again, 15 days at a time, just for meeting people. In Belarus, even meeting your audience can be called a crime. The dictator writes his own laws. By that time, I was already well known. I understood that the system had to change. So, in May 2020, I made a video and said I would run for president. When the video came out, I was already in prison. They isolated me. They refused to register me. They said I was not present in person. They refused my representative. They refused my lawyers. Then my wife submitted the documents in her own name, and she was registered. She was unknown, and the system did not see her as a threat. But people saw a chance. They stood in huge lines all across the country. Every day I showed these lines, thousands of people. That's why the regime arrested me again. This time they accused me of attacking a police officer. But this charge was only a pretext to isolate me. It was never even brought to court. They also tried to discredit me. Almost $1 million in cash was planted on me. But no one believed it. Later, the dictator met me in prison. In front of witnesses, he admitted it. He said, "Politics is a dirty business. You should be ready for this." There was no real trial. It took place inside the prison. You cannot defend yourself, like in the Stalin era. I was later accused of organizing protests that happened 2 months after my arrest and sentenced to 20 years in prison. I ended up in a real gulag. A small cell, total silence. Almost 2.5 years, no contact with the outside world. No lawyer, no priest, no letters, no medical care, no basic things. Not even toothpaste. just a small room with a hole in the floor. No way out, and 20 years to spend there. The system tries to break you every day, day after day. It puts pressure on you. It tells you, you will never leave this place. You will die here. And the most important thing is this: you know you did nothing wrong. Nothing. And you cannot defend yourself. You are completely isolated. No letters come in, no letters go out. Total isolation. You can only take a few steps in one direction and then back. For 16 hours a day you must stand. For 8 hours you lie on cold metal. At night you cannot sleep. You hear screams, you hear dogs barking, your body hurts, your muscles cramp. It is very hard not to lose your mind in conditions like this. In prison, I lost 56 kilograms, almost half of my body weight. When I came home, my own daughter did not recognize me. What helped me? My faith. I'm a Christian. I believed in justice, and I believe that people are fighting for us even when we cannot see it. I believed the truth will win. That is how I survived. After 5 years, one day they took me out of the cell, they put a bag over my head, they put handcuffs on me. The next day I was handed over to the Americans. I was free and I could finally hug my family. In those years, I had a lot of time to think, and I understood one thing. Freedom does not come by itself. It must be part of political decisions. After my release, I saw something strange. The world knows about dictators. The world talks about regimes. There are human rights organizations, but when real decisions are made, freedom is often not included. Today, when we talk about releasing political prisoners, politicians often say, "This is impossible." But I live in proof that it is possible. My release was a political decision, and that means more decisions are possible. There are still hundreds of political prisoners. They can be released if the right decisions are made. Europe can play a big role here. Belarus is close. It is closer to Warsaw than Warsaw is to Berlin. For many people in Belarus, Europe means hope. Hope for freedom, for democracy, for the rule of law. I ask European countries to use their influence, political influence, economic influence, to help release political prisoners. This is possible. It can save lives. It can stop repression. It can change the future. I'm not just asking. This is my moral duty. This is my mission. I have seen how the system breaks people, and I have seen that it can be stopped, and I know this. This is not a question of possibility. This is a question of political will. Thank you.
Tapi mulutku tajuk Rio. Jagalah lisanmu di hadapan aku besok. Tak peduli lawan tak kawan.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Make some noise for yourselves. Good morning. Or I should say, God morgen. Did I get that right? Yeah? Thank you very much. Tuseltak. Yeah? Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a comedian, so I'm the least serious part of this event. We can relax, everybody. Just kick back. I'm going to bring you some smiles. My name is Panji. I am from Indonesia. Thank you. One person in the back. Make some noise if you know where Indonesia is. If you can point Indonesia on the map. Yes, thank you. Wow. Thank you so much. I am from Indonesia, but I moved to New York City 4 years ago, and I'm based in New York now. And a lot of people in New York City, they know nothing about Indonesia. Then again, they are Americans, so we understand why. And so every time I do stand up in New York City, I have to explain to them about Indonesia using context that they understand. Do you know what I mean? Like I have to explain it through things that they know, they understand. And so this is how I introduce Indonesia to most Americans when I do stand up in New York City. I tell them that I'm from Indonesia. It's a country in Southeast Asia. It's so peaceful. Barack Obama actually spent his childhood there. This is true, 8 to 10 years old. He lived in Jakarta. It's so beautiful. Donald Trump goes there to play golf. And it's so far away, Joe Biden probably won't survive the trip. I mean, he's no longer young, ladies and gentlemen. We are worried about his health, and it's a very long flight. It's a 26-hour flight. And so that's how I tell about Indonesia to New Yorkers. Now, I'm going to open with a very good news, and I'm very proud of. I have a comedy special out on Netflix worldwide. Thank you. A lot of comedians in the world, that's what we dream for. We want to have a comedy special out on Netflix. And you can actually open up your Netflix, you can watch it. It's in my language, it's in Indonesian language, but there's an English subtitle. But then again, it's also 2 hours. So if you want to watch the show, read the subtitle, watch the show, read the subtitles, and do it for 2 hours. By the end of it, I'm pretty sure you're going to have cross-eyed and you'll be like, okay, this is too much. This is too much. This is getting crazy. Now, it's supposed to be a positive thing. It's supposed to be a good thing to have a Netflix special out. However, exactly a week after the special was released on Netflix, over 1,000 Muslims poured the streets of Jakarta protesting my jokes, protesting my bits, saying that it was a blasphemy, saying that I was condescending Islam and how I'm a very bad Muslim. You know, when I found out about the news, I was in New York. I was actually at a bar having a beer, and I remember thinking, they have a point there, yeah. I was having a Modelo, and I remember, yeah, they have a good point there. But the thing is, I wasn't taking out jabs to Islam. I wasn't condescending Islam. There were no jokes that was a blasphemy in any form. Nothing. So I did my own investigation, and I got help by some journalists. Eventually, I found out that the protest was politically driven because on my comedy special, I criticized the government, criticized the president of Indonesia, the vice president of Indonesia, because that's what you do as a comedian. You bring light, serious issues. You tell people about the truth, and you deliver it in a form that they love, which is comedy. That's what you do. And I make fun about the president, make fun about the vice president. I remember I have this one bit where I said that the vice president looks sleepy all the time. And every supporter of the vice president went crazy. They attacked me, like literally. It's so weird, because I live in New York. And people in the US, they give nicknames to Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, and everybody's okay with it. In Indonesia, I tell the vice president looks sleepy all the time. Everybody looks at me like I'm at a Diddy party or something. Just kind of weird. But they were very upset with me. One of his supporters was like, Panji, you're so mean. Panji, you're so mean. He's not sleepy. He has a condition called blepharoptosis. It's a medical condition where he has droopy eyes all the time. I'm like, that sounds meaner than me. I assume he was sleepy. You accused him of facial disfigurement. I assume he was working. What's wrong with vice president being sleepy? He's the vice president. He better be sleepy. You better be tired and sleepy, working, leading 300 million people, right? I want president and vice president that takes Adderall all the time. Come on. But they were very upset. And they were protesting, and they were attacking my family. My kids got bullied. And at this point, a lot of people in Indonesia say how brave I am. They say, you're very brave, Panji, to keep talking about the government, to keep criticizing the president and the vice president, knowing the kind of government that we have. But being brave is when you want to do something, you think about it, you felt fear, you overcame it. That's being brave. I wasn't even thinking. I felt nothing at all. I don't think I'm brave. I think I'm stupid. I think that's what I am. I think I'm just stupid. I wasn't thinking about consequences. People are like, what about the consequence? I'm like, what consequence? I'm just trying to tell jokes here. If you want to have an idea of what the government is like in Indonesia, a lot of Indonesians look at President Prabowo the way a lot of Americans look at Donald Trump. That's the situation. And funny enough, they're actually friends. They're buddies. You know how birds of a feather flocks together? But President Trump and President Prabowo are actually buddies. They were in this organization. I don't know if you heard about it. It's called Board of Peace, which eventually the Indonesian president realized that the way you spell Board of Peace is B-O-R-E-D. Thank you for the applause break over there. You love the joke more than everybody else here. Apparently everybody on Board of Peace is bored of peace, igniting war all the time. And President Trump actually has a nickname for President Prabowo. It's Tough Cookie. He was on this press conference and President Prabowo was on his left and Donald Trump was like, look at the Indonesian president. Look at him, he's so big. He's so strong. I don't want to mess with him. He's such a big person. Look at him. He's a tough cookie. And if it sounds condescending, it's because it is. And it's crazy. Indonesia is crazy. I don't know if you know this, but $1 is almost 18,000 Indonesian rupiah. That is crazy. $1 is almost 18,000 Indonesian rupiah. If you have $100, you're a millionaire in Jakarta, Indonesia. And if you have $1,000, you can buy the government, I'm pretty sure. I think it's already happening right now. But that's what I do as a comedian. I go places, and it's such an honor to be here in Oslo. Make some noise for yourself. Thank you very much. That's what I do. I go places to introduce about Indonesia. I tell people how Indonesia is, how Indonesian people are. Can I do a little bit of an impression for you guys? Can I? Yeah? All right. Here's my impression of an Indonesian working hard. An Indonesian working hard. Here we go. Thank you very much. Here's my impression of an Indonesian taking a break. It's basically the same thing. But I'm here to tell you about, so there's a stereotype about Indonesian people that I'm trying to put straight. The stereotype about Indonesian people is that Indonesians are lazy. This is not true, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to address the issue. It's not true. Indonesians are not lazy. We're just not accustomed to work hard. It's different. Let me explain. Indonesians are not accustomed to work hard. It's in our DNA. It's generational. It's who we are. Because Indonesia is a tropical country. So since the days of hunters and gatherers, we don't have to work hard. We don't have deadlines like the winter to hunt and gather food. There's always tomorrow. There's always the next day. That's why one of the most famous saying in Indonesia is, kalau bisa besok, kenapa harus hari ini? Which means, if you can do it tomorrow, why do it today? And I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, I might be Indonesian myself. Thank you very much, everybody. You've been great. My name is Panji. Tusen tak, everybody. Thank you.
Throughout history, the greatest dissidents have been celebrated for one thing above all else: the courage to speak truth to power.
I was reporting on serious issues. If you want to do real journalism in Iran, it turns to comedy.
They have mobilized populations, terrified tyrants, inspired millions.
I was lucky I only got beaten and not truly tortured. And on the bright side, I lost almost 40 pounds. Strict diet.
Today, tyranny is on the rise, and dissident voices are needed more than ever.
To get my Venezuelan passport, it took me 9 months, 3 hackers, $1,000 in bribes. All I got was an appointment.
They don't always arrive with speeches or a manifesto. They arrive with a microphone.
Saya di sini mau ngomongin Pak Luhut Binsar Panjaitan.
They expose the absurd images of invincibility that dictators depend on to sustain control.
Поэтому дальше я буду некоторых персонажей заменять на себя, просто чтобы избежать уголовной ответственности. Только из-за этого я у власти 20 лет, не дофига ли? Это вообще что такое? Вы вообще,
A joke can be met with persecution, imprisonment, or exile.
My name is Prince Mahmoud. It is a pleasure for you that I am here.
Humor outlasts every tyrant. It spreads like wildfire. It makes resistance feel like joy.
Journalism. Boys, we are giving him a scholarship. Free for ride to heaven.
The comedians of the next generation are already among us, using their voices to unite and their talents to ignite.
I was punched for 38 days and told so many jokes that my captors came by later to say they miss me.
This is the comedy show you were never supposed to see.
More than 180 delegates from 60 authoritarian regimes in this parliament in Berlin.
Freedom is something we have to earn, and we are building the foundation here for something that will change the global balance of power.
We believe in democracy, we believe in leadership, and we are willing to fight for freedom in every corner.
Where the walls have fallen and we continue to rise.
We are the biggest threats to authoritarianism, to our dictators in our own country.
World Liberty Congress is meeting as a sign of our legitimacy.
What gives World Liberty Congress is give us opportunity to be united, to be heard.
Being the voice for the voiceless.
Here we will be deliberating, discussing, and approving our guidelines for the future of the World Liberty Congress.
All those in favor, show of hands.
I think today when we were choosing motions, it was very, very powerful, but it's also giving us an opportunity to feel how it is to have the freedom to choose.
We organized this election to let democracy speak.
I love to vote.
I voted.
And the Berlin Manifesto will be our guideline for the future.
Yesterday, we did a protest for all the political prisoners in Berlin.
Freedom! Freedom!
Freedom is not an option. Freedom is a right.
For all humankind.
Authoritarian regimes are coordinating, and now so are we.
We will be stronger in fighting them.
Dictators, we see you, and we're coming for you.
Walls fall, we rise.
Walls fall, we rise.
We rise.
Thank you. We are the World Liberty Congress, the largest global alliance of freedom fighters and democracy defenders. We fight against autocracy, and we also practice democracy. I am proud to introduce the newly elected leadership of the World Liberty Congress, Karim Kanimba from Rwanda, our Secretary General, and Shimi Lamu, our spokesperson from Tibet.
Several years ago, at the Oslo Freedom Forum, 3 people had a conversation. Masih Alinejad from Iran, Garry Kasparov from Russia, and Leopoldo Lopez from Venezuela. They asked one simple question. If autocracies are working together, if they're sharing tactics, strategies, diplomacy, funding, why aren't we? And the answer to that question became the World Liberty Congress.
And today we are the largest global alliance of democracy defenders and freedom fighters in the world, ranging from over 60 different countries, different backgrounds, different religions, different walks of life, heck, even different generations. But there's one thing that unites us, and that is our love for freedom. When we're at the front lines, it is refusing to be silenced. It is choosing to fight and continuing to unite.
So many of our members have been unlawfully detained. They've been sent to prisons. They've been tortured. They've been killed. They've been stripped of their nationalities to be made stateless. They've been sent into exile far away from their home.
You see, the Oslo Freedom Forum this year's theme is 2 words: dismantling dictatorships. But
that's exactly what we are doing. Billions of people around the world are dreaming to live free. They are dreaming to raise their children in a place far away from the shadows of the dictators that reach beyond the borders of occupied nation. They dream of voting, of speaking without fear, and that is exactly why the World Liberty Congress exists.
And we exist to make that dream into a reality, not an illusion of empty promises and sympathy for the victims. It is action. It is a reality that is built by our unity, strategic action, and you. If you're an activist in this room and fighting at the front lines, join us. If you're a journalist, don't just write about us, actually amplify the voices that are on the grounds fighting. And if you're a philanthropist, it's like music. Freedom, philanthropy. Fund us. So you know, and we all know, that we, the activists, can stretch a dollar much farther than dictators can. Heck, they even spend billions of dollars just to discredit our work. But that doesn't stop us.
That doesn't stop us. Nothing will. In fact, we, the freedom fighters, are united. Now the question is, will you join us?
I was born in Angola in 1981, 6 years after we gained our independence from Portugal, and 6 years into a bloody civil war that was the last battleground of the Cold War. That war will go on until I was 21. I'm the oldest of 5 siblings. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. My parents separated when I was 2, and they both work regular 9 to 5, so I spend most of my time with my grandmother. She's the most important person in my life and still an inspiration to all of us today. She's 96 years old. Growing up, my siblings and I had no idea that we lived in this one-party socialist state. I mean, of course, I saw things, but I guess I was just too young to understand why certain things were the way they were. Like, what were all these Russians and Cubans doing all around? It was puzzling. The continuation of war, power cuts, and everything that was bad, well, they just blamed it on the rebels. When communism finally fell, the change was very abrupt. Fortunately for me, my parents have always encouraged me to think outside the box, to ask the hard questions and find my own answers. I also come from a long line of free thinkers and rebels. My political awakening came when I started listening to this local hip-hop group called Filhos da Laeste. They were unapologetically political and utterly fearless. It was very quick to see our party state, the MPLA, and its leader, José Eduardo dos Santos, as a problem. The Arab Spring was a turning point. Seeing people power topple long-lasting dictators in North Africa truly inspired us. Shortly thereafter, I was taking part in organizing the first mass protest of our own, calling for dos Santos to go. And although we were systematically detained, beaten, and viciously attacked, we managed to make Angolans less afraid of armed police and planted a seed in their minds about fighting for their rights. In 2015, the party state came after us after I and 16 other activists organized reading sessions and discussions on Gene Sharp's book, From Dictatorship to Democracy. Somehow they felt we were preparing a revolution or a coup d'etat, so they arrested us. They drove me to a maximum security prison 100 kilometers away from the capital with a bag over my head and threw me in a 2x2 isolation cell where sometimes I went 47 hours without seeing sunlight. Now, it was plain to see they were trying to break me, so I wouldn't just give them the pleasure. I got more defiant instead. At first, I refused to eat their food, and after 3 months, I started a hunger strike to protest the illegality of our detention. On the 19th day, I was hospitalized, and I really thought I was going to die. So I wrote a letter asking not to be brought back in case I went into a coma. That's when I realized that my hunger strike and our case was the talk of the town, the country, and the world. For the first time, people who never opened their mouths about human rights were talking. International pressure really made a difference here. Everyone from the US State Department, the EU, the Vatican, and international human rights organizations, they all apply pressure to the government. Hearing the news from the inside really emboldened us to find creative ways of protesting our imprisonment and sham trial. Because the world never stopped talking, we were released after a year. Less than a year after our release, dos Santos, who had been the sitting president for 38 years, finally announced his resignation. And it was a relief. But we knew that his hand-picked successor, João Lourenço, will never relinquish the status quo, and he didn't. But for a brief moment, though, it just felt like we were a tiny bit freer. I mean, the guy even invited activists for a meeting at the presidential palace. But that moment of opening passed, and the party state is now back to its old devious ways, or using lawfare to stifle free thinking, making protests more difficult, restricting NGOs, and criminalizing dissent. Angola doesn't make the headlines often, even though we are constantly ranking among the worst countries in the world for corruption, malnutrition, education, infant mortality, you name it. We don't have a war going on, yet people are suffering as much as in more well-known failed states. But this is a failed state by design. Since 1975, they have squandered the country's wealth because the party state sees fit to use the people's money on rather expensive and stupid publicity stunts. In March, Will Smith came to Angola and met with our dictator to promote the country as a destination for tourism and the film industry and, help me out here, the 2026 Electric Race Boat World Championship? Whatever the F that is. Last year, they spent $6 million to bring Messi and the Argentinian team for one football match. Now, I know that countries have little to no incentive to help change the status quo. Matter of fact, governments rather keep on profiting off Angolans. American and Chinese multinationals are buying Angola's oil and diamonds, but 50% of the wealth generated goes to service the $30 billion debt to China because our leaders sold us out. While governments profit, Angolans pay the price. We see children as young as 7 going through trash bins in the streets, scavenging for food. Children dying of preventable diseases in public hospitals, and over 7 million people face food insecurity. That's 20% of the population. Nevertheless, there are small things we can do to help improve the lives of people. We'll hold elections next year. Yes, everyone knows they're badly rigged. They don't reflect the will of the people. At Mudei, we are working to mobilize citizens to overcome their own apathy and get control of their destiny. We are trying to force the hand of the government to open up the electoral process and make it transparent. We believe the existence of community radio stations could help achieve that goal. We could use money, of course, to help pay volunteer lawyers we work with so they can come to the rescue when people get arrested or abducted just for taking part in the electoral process. And notice, I said when, not if, because it happened before, it happened last time, and damn sure will happen again. Last but not least, we could use journalists taking an interest in Angola, because we've witnessed firsthand, I've witnessed firsthand, the impact of international exposure. We may not be able to change the party state just yet, but I still have hope for Angola. Thanks for having me, Oslo. Remember, let's end all wars, free Palestine, and please, 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 don't be Will Smith, y'all. Peace, I'm out.
Tyrannies are built on a big narrative in everyone's mind. That's how they grow your fear. An artist understands myth, and an artist has the tools to undermine that narrative better than anyone else.
HRF's Art and Protest program supports dissident artists courageously using their art to challenge authoritarianism.
I felt alone, but now I don't feel alone anymore, with many artists fighting together with me hand in hand.
Through mentorship, exhibition opportunities, and global platforms, the program supports dissident artists working under authoritarian regimes.
Each one of these artists has paid a profound price for refusing to stay silent.
근데 칼이라는 나라는 저 김정은의 저 독재자는 자기가 태양이라고 착각하고 살아갔거든. 저는 그걸 이야기하는 거예요.
Tyrants are pretty much afraid of artists. They can awaken the minds of the people. And that is what tyrants try to suppress.
This is about collaboration, it's about courage, it's about collective commitment.
Forma parte de nosotros como sociedad evitar que sigan sucediendo cosas como esta.
Good art goes beyond any kind of censorship. It's the purest expression of yourself.
Really simple, all we want is freedom. No violence and brutality.
At the Human Rights Foundation, we know that art is not just a luxury of free society. Art is a lifeline for millions of people. And through the program Art in Protest, we try to give a platform to these artists because visibility is protection and solidarity is power.
Hello, Tashdile and Namaste. My name is Tenzing Rigdo. My artwork deals with human conflicts and the tragedies and trauma that it leaves. At this time, the focus is on Tibet, and I'm working with Human Rights Foundation on an exhibition titled Let There Be Light at the Attlee Gallery. So if time permits, I humbly request you all to come and visit. Thank you.
For over 44 years, the people of Cameroon have lived under the dictatorship of Paul Biya. He's 93 years old. Still, there are brave Cameroonians who are still peacefully resisting this dictatorship. One of them is a journalist called C. Conrad. C comes from one of two regions of Cameroon where English is the official language, unlike the rest of the country, which is Francophone. In 2016, the people from these minority Anglophone regions rose up to protest the regime's imposition of French as the official language in public schools and courtrooms. The regime responded with bullets. C was arrested for filming the atrocities of the violent repression. For 10 years, he has been unjustly detained, serving a 15-year sentence. But this is not just another sad story about another political prisoner. This is a story of hope, because even from behind bars, he continues to speak out. And I'm so excited to say we're so happy that he's able to join us live from his prison cell.
Thank you. When I and other Anglophone prisoners of conscience arrived here in 2016, inmates were denied communication with the outside world. We could not reach our families, and we were barred from family visits. There were gross human rights violations on inmates, especially those connected to the Anglophone crisis. Prison warders tortured me, deprived us of medical care, fed us food not even fit for pigs, and sometimes chained us and locked us up in solitary cells at the slightest mistake. The dictatorship regime in Yaoundé wanted to silence us forever. They wanted the world to forget us. But I and other Anglophone crisis inmates knew that we could not let the dictatorship regime lock our bodies and still succeed to silence the truth about their human rights atrocities against us and our people, the people of Southern Cameroon. So we staged an 18-hour prison protest in 2019 demanding better prison conditions, including our rights to communication and better feeding and access to medical care. We were tortured by hundreds of military policemen and prison warders using wooden sticks and gun butts, breaking our bones. I was particularly singled out as one of the leaders of the protest. So they broke my head, in which I lost so much blood before being bundled alongside many others to the dreaded torture center in Yaoundé called SED. News spread around that I had died. But I was given 8 and 6 stitches without any anesthesia, using one needle, which was shared amongst 5 bleeding men. 2 weeks later, we were arraigned the second time before the courts and sentenced to additional prison terms, for which I got 16 months on rebellion charges. But guess what? We won. Freedom won, because we were brought back to prison, and the prison administration understood that our demands were reasonable. And so they did not want us to cause any more trouble. So they unofficially allowed us to have access to phones and medical care. So being able to talk to you today is as a result of that protest. It is not only a tool of communication, but an instrument of resistance. Thank you.
Now, most people go to prison and lose hope, but you have found in prison new life and renewal, and you have even written 4 or 5 books. How have you been able to do that?
Yes, I am in the Kunming Central Prison today because I am a journalist who refused to look away from the Anglophone crisis in Southern Cameroon. when you document systemic violence against Southern Cameroonians or Anglophones in Cameroon, the dictatorship regime in Yaoundé, decides to disappear you in places like this. But my story, our story, could not end here in prison. So I had to find a way to continue fighting. And by telling our story to the world and even behind bars. So Southern Cameroon's story will not be erased and the dictatorship regime in Yaoundé will not be fulfilled. Now, I set myself to writing books on self-help and trauma, meditation, forgiveness, and on the Southern Cameroon story and poetry. But the trauma of 10 years in prison is so harsh that staying sane and lucid also means keeping my mind healthy so that, I don't go mad. So I had to find a way to continue educating myself on human rights, freedoms, and political education. You must also know that I am in one of the most comfortable parts of the prison, and this came at a huge financial cost. The larger population of the prison is in the worst overcrowded parts where sleeping and even having a space to stand is a miracle. Feeding there is not a reality. Medical care and sanitation are completely absent. And right there, many Anglophone crisis prisoners of conscience have died from poor living conditions. So thank you.
How can people support you?
Yes. I would like you to take interest in the Anglophone crisis and the Southern Cameroon story. The Norwegian Refugee Council has documented our crisis as one of the most neglected in the world. The crisis escalated into an armed conflict in 2018 and has cost 7,000 lives. It has at least 2 million internally displaced persons, 1 million refugees in Nigeria and Ghana alone. It has at least 2 million refugees and asylum seekers globally. And at least 500 villages have been burned down by the Cameroon government military forces. We also have at least 5,000 prisoners in jails across the Cameroons. So we are begging on all of you here today to put pressure on your government to help the people of Southern Cameroon's story get out there so that they can be able to pressurize the government to release these political prisoners and also give us the ability to tell our story to the world. The dictatorship regime in Yaoundé has been in power for 44 years after violently grabbing an 8th term following the killing of hundreds of people during post-election tensions in October 2025. And the current president is currently setting up his son to succeed him. I think he has changed the constitution so many times that it means nothing to him. We urge your government, we urge you to please beg your government to demand accountability on the Anglophone crisis in Cameroon and to pressure the government of Cameroon in Yaoundé to release these 5,000 political prisoners, to also support human rights defenders on the ground in Southern Cameroon, and then to buy my books, to read them, and to distribute them. You can also write us letters. We will be very happy with that. Thank you so much.
And finally, I believe you have a piece of poetry that you'd like to share with us.
Yes, thank you so much. I would like to share a poem from my book, A Place of Hope, my poetry book, A Place of Hope. It is titled Liberty at the Square. An excerpt. And still we march, unshaken, unbowed, not because we are untouchable, but because everything meant to break us failed. We are awake, not polite, alive, not quiet, awakened, and no longer asking for permission. Freedom is no longer a word for us. Freedom is no longer a word for us. It is a crowd that refuses to go home. I would love to end here with thanking Freedom House and the esteemed CEO, Jamie Fly, who is in the audience today, and who made this call possible for me. Thank you, Oslo Freedom, for giving me this opportunity. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, C. We really hope you can join us in person next year.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So we now have a 30-minute intermission. Feel free to go, coffee, conversation, bathroom. We'll be back here in 30 minutes, precisely at 11:15. Thank you.
On April 19, 2016, Evan Mawarire launched the #ThisFlag movement, a civil boycott and protest against Zimbabwe's authoritarian regime.
You're watching this video because I've either been arrested or I've been abducted. In authoritarian regimes, there is no separation of powers. For activists, a lack of judicial independence creates an environment where you could be arrested without a warrant. In fact, you could even be detained without being charged for a crime.
So HRF started its impact litigation program in 2016 to provide pro bono international legal representation to prisoners of conscience whose cases are really emblematic of the brutality of dictatorships. The individuals that HRF's legal team represents have been detained for exercising their most basic of human rights, and there is no justice for them in their home countries.
By the time the Human Rights Foundation picked up on my arrest and my detentions, I was facing 2 charges of treason, which meant 40 years in prison.
We pursue cases before a quasi-judicial mechanism within the United Nations system called the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention. The working group investigates individual cases and then issues opinions on whether a complainant's detention is in fact arbitrary. In many instances, they work to pressure authoritarian regimes to comply with international law so that those who abuse power can be held to account on a global stage. Unlike other mechanisms, which can take years to issue opinions, our complaints can actually be processed in a matter of months.
To get the news that the United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention had chosen my case, they had heard my case, and that they had issued an opinion was nothing short of a miracle.
We're proud to say that every opinion we've received from the working group has been in our clients' favor. Because of the work done by HRF's impact litigation team, we've seen activists go from arbitrary detention in a dictatorship one year to sharing their story at the Oslo Freedom Forum the next. And there's just no greater privilege than to bear witness to that.
Suddenly, I went from not having a chance to having the opportunity to be heard.
Freedom is not what they take away from me as punishment, because it was never theirs to take in the first place. But that freedom is you, and freedom is me.
Thank you. Good morning. At the Human Rights Foundation, we believe that no one should be imprisoned for their beliefs, their words, or simply for being who they are. But across the globe, in country after country, that is exactly what dictators are doing. Through HRF's impact litigation program, we defend prisoners of conscience from around the world, but particularly in authoritarian regimes. Our pro bono clients are artists, dissidents, opposition leaders, brave people who have dared to stand up to dictatorship. And they're oftentimes persecuted and targeted for their religion, their ethnicity, their gender, or simply because a regime had decided that they will no longer be tolerated. And that is the reason why we take their cases before the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention. We fight to see them freed, but very importantly, we do our best so that their cases are not forgotten. Vadim Kosev and Alexei Lipster are 2 such prisoners of conscience. For many years, they represented the late Russian opposition leader, Alexei Navalny. And for that work, for doing the work of attorneys for Navalny, they were arrested and convicted on trumped-up charges of extremism. Today, they sit in a Russian prison, cut off from their families and being forced to endure conditions no one should face. Few people understand this struggle and this fight so profoundly as our next speaker. She has taken unimaginable loss and grief and has transformed it into a global movement for a free and democratic Russia. Please join me in welcoming HRF's chairwoman, Yulia Navalnaya.
Good evening. All it takes for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. This is probably the most famous quote that reminds you all about my husband, Alexei Navalny. He knew what he was talking about because during his entire life, he was surrounded and supported by good and fearless people who refused to stand by and do nothing. When he returned to Russia and became trapped by Putin's system of repression, he was never been alone. Tens of thousands of people took to the streets in protests across the country, and brave lawyers stepped up to fight for justice and the rule of law. Even when repression and war had silenced public voices, the lawyers didn't give up. I really want all the world to know these two names, Vadim Kobzev and Alexei Liptser. Vadim Kobzev defended my husband for more than 15 years, guiding him through numerous fabricated criminal cases. Alexei Liptser joined the defense team in 2022. He never met my husband when he was a free man. Both were doing the same essential work, preventing Putin from isolating Alexei completely. You know Alexei's tragic story, his strengths, and the hardships he faced. But we can read his words and hear his voice today because these people fought the prison system day after day. Year after year, the battle saw that his health would allow him to write, so that he could put down a few lines each day, and so that he was given a pen and sheet of paper. Even these small things were required a constant struggle. And this struggle was led by Vadim Kobzev and Alexei Liptser. It's thanks to them that today we can hear Alexei's pain, his hope, and can admire his strengths. His lawyers were not political activists. They were professionals simply doing their job every day. But like all good people, they acted. They fought evil with the only weapons their profession gave them. They didn't back down and continued their work in conditions that would be unthinkable for any European or American lawyer. They had no attorney-client confidentiality. Every conversation was recorded, and every document they passed on was censored. Every day, one of the lawyers stood outside the prison gates from 6 a.m. in a freezing cold just to see Alexei and make sure that he was still alive. They were searched, they were humiliated, they were threatened, and ultimately they were arrested just for doing their job, for being good lawyers. This is exactly why, when a dictator wants to strike at freedom fighters, politicians, and activists, he first tries to cut off their support and their backbone. Just before my husband was sent to his final prison beyond the Arctic Circle, Putin first imprisoned his lawyers. You are now looking at the faces of people who have been deprived of their freedom for many years simply for carrying out their professional duty. And unfortunately, I can't say this is something unusual. Dictators learn from each other. This method, targeting lawyers in order to isolate imprisoned opposition leaders, is used again and again. Putin does it, Lukashenko does it, Khamenei did it. This is why we must remember those who did their duty and paid for it with exile, with losing their profession, or with having their entire life destroyed. They worked and fought not only for their client, but for all the society in a whole. And now it's our turn to help them. This is why I'm glad that the Human Rights Foundation has joined the campaign for release of Vadim Kobzev and Alexei Liptser, and to support their families. Looking at these brave lawyers, let us give a real and practical support of those whom evil has taken hostage or locked away in prison. After all it takes for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. So we must not stand by and do nothing.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. It's such an honor to be here with three of my personal heroes. So let's have another round of applause for these three amazing leaders. I don't think that any of you would describe yourselves as technologists or as engineers, and yet you've built amazing things. I wanted to first start and ask a little bit from each of you about your experience with Href's Agent Camp and the hackathons we've been doing, and then we'll get into kind of towards the end some of your advice for the activists in the audience. So we're going to start with you, Anais, maybe just a little reminder about who you are and your experience through our program so far.
Hi, everyone. It's a true pleasure to be here. My name is Anais Kanimba. I'm from Rwanda and currently live in exile because my country has been under a dictatorship for the last 30 years. And one of the challenges that we have in our country is to be able to speak openly and freely. We don't have any more media anymore. Most of influencers who've used YouTube have been imprisoned or killed. So, and my father, that many of you have heard and met here at Oslo Freedom Forum, Paul Rusesabagina, was put in prison for also speaking truth to power. And now he's thankfully free. And so one of the challenges that I've always had is, how do we really get to the people? And AI could be the answer. And so I had the chance to go to Agent Camp and learned about agentic AI, got my first bot and was able to see how it can support me in my work, being able to set it up within a couple minutes and being able to talk to it. But the best experience was during the hackathon when we built Zuka, which is an application that that was created in honor of Aimable Karasira, who is a latest journalist and YouTuber who was killed on May 6th by the regime on the day he was supposed to be free, 5 years after imprisonment. And so to honor him, I wanted to give a voice to those who've been taken in silence, but also to make sure that those voices are never taken down. And using technology with like Nostr and Bitcoin and other that I didn't really know about. And that was with the support of my wonderful team, Derek, Jim, and Topher, who are developers and who helped me think about these questions. And we built this amazing app that many Rwandans now can use and other people cannot use as well. And this app is an AI persona that lets you really tell your story in a way that cannot be censored.
And we're going to show the app in a second, but what was it like to be able to build something yourself when you never learned a line of code? I mean, what kind of transformation is that for you?
It was incredible because the word anything becomes possible. It's an idea and the machine helps you think about it and helps you create it. And I think now I just feel much more empowered. And I think that it's more difficult for some of these dictators, specifically in my country, to really come at me because now it's not just me. I have really the internet to support me, but also I can create what I want, and I feel empowered, and I feel like we can even out the playing field a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, look, every dictator is going to use this technology. Even the Taliban are going to use AI. But we can't get left behind. You know, that would be the equivalent of us using, handwriting, and they're going to use typewriters. No, we got to use, the computer keyboard. We have to be one step ahead. So, Lillian, what's it been like to go through this experience? You've told me, you're definitely not a deep technologist, but that you've fallen in love with AI. Tell them.
Yes, I fall in love with AI. Thank you for the agent camp. I'm an activist from Venezuela. I escaped from my country 7 years ago by the sea with my little daughter in my chest, and I live in exile. So I still am an activist, but I never be a technologist. And we built something in few days, only in few days, something that I have been dreaming for more than 10 years. So we built in these 2 days the Museum of Memory of Venezuela. So I have the idea, many activists of Venezuela
have dreamed for a long time.
For a long time, but we don't know how to start because we survived for many, many years. So in these few days, I can think and I can create with the technologists.
All you're doing is speaking to a computer.
Yes.
The new tool of development on a computer is just language. You don't need to know anything specialized. You just speak to it in your own language, en español, and it does it, no?
Yes, and it's not only in the computer, it's in your phone.
It's on your phone.
So you can build this with your phone, with your bot.
I mean, for someone like her, she's going around to meetings, she's changing the world. The power that she now has, where she can just leave a meeting and then just talk to her agent and say, look, this is what happened, here's what I need you to do for me. I mean, and this thing has no human rights. Remember, it's a robot. It can work all the time, and it works 24/7. You can't overwork it.
So we have the control. Yeah. We have the power. It's a tool. So we invite you to use the tool. Don't be afraid. AI is amazing. And I realize that AI have a lot of skills. A lot.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so intelligent. But we have the skill.
Yeah.
As activists, of the power of love, the power to fight for freedom, the power for fight for our family, for our country, and that skill they need from us. So never is gonna supply the empathy, the charisma, or the power of love.
Yeah, and remember, these things are just tools. They only do what you tell them to do. So you guys have such a unique power because you can move this vision from your head into reality so much more easily now. So Roya, you participated in this. You've been working on technology for a long time. But this time, you're able to build stuff like Roshan yourself with no help from anyone else, right? You didn't have to hire a team like you normally have done through your career. So what's that been like for you?
I mean, it was absolutely an amazing experience. I worked with the technology, and I did also vibe coding, but I think that agent camp was completely different experience for me. It wasn't just simple, like prompting a question, asking to do research for you. And in fact, the agent help you do work beyond on behalf of yourself. It's act, it's think, it's research, it's write codes for you. While you are sleeping, it can work a lot of the tasks for you when you are wake up, and you can see that everything is ready only for your approval.
And for what you do today, underground education in Afghanistan for women and girls, I mean, this is going to be quite amazing because each girl can have their own personal tutor that knows them and that can work with them, and maybe they'll be even better than a teacher at a expensive school in the West.
Exactly. We built a Roshans which has 3 layers of the AI. One layer is trying to understanding the level of the goal of the students and the level of the students, and the second is going to help them to create a personalized content for them. And then the third layer is a companion and a guidance tutors for them to teach them. And it's not only going to help 2.4 million of the Afghan girls that the Taliban is banned education for them, it's in fact helped 250 million of the kids that are currently out of the schools and they don't have the opportunity to continue their education.
Amazing. Well, look, we'll quickly show Lillian. This is, what you've been able to build from your mind directly to reality. And then Anais, this is this incredible app that you were able to bring, again from your experience and wisdom into the hands of other people. What is your advice for this audience, especially for the activists? Like, what should they do now? Just real quick, Anais, why don't you tell them?
Don't be afraid, learn it, embrace it. It's going to empower you, actually. And remember, these autocrats are also using AI. So you need to also use it and use it against them for your cause and what you believe and for the right thing.
And Lillian, so today, everybody here is going to have the opportunity, after this session, we're going to go on shuttles up to Transformator, up to this incredible new technology venue we all have for you. And we're going to have an AI lounge where you all can start using agents. Just, you don't have to know anything about technology. You don't even have to know English. You can do any language you want. You can go and start hacking away. We have a privacy mode. We have a local, powerful computer that you can check out. It looks like an Apple store, basically. There'll be lots of helpers. Should they go? What do you think?
Come with us, ask questions. We can have that experience together. Don't miss it. It's this afternoon.
This afternoon?
This afternoon here in Oslo. Thank you, Oslo Freedom Forum. So I came with Alex like a student, and now I'm a builder. So today in the afternoon, you can do the same. Come and use AI. The sky is the limit. AI is the limit.
Don't be afraid. Come join us. Let's drive the future together. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It is such an honor for me to be here in Oslo again. On a very personal note, it was here on December 11th that I first breathed freedom after 16 months hiding in Venezuela. Here, where I was able to hug and kiss my children and colleagues for the first time after years of separation. It is incredibly exciting to be here in person for the first time at this forum that I have been joining remotely for so many years. Being surrounded by every one of you, freedom fighters from all over the world with extraordinary stories and lessons. This is certainly unique and humbling. I am here today because Venezuela's long, painful, and extraordinary path towards freedom has entered the defining and final phase. And we need every one of you, aligned and active in support to us in a concrete, orderly, and immediate way during our transition to democracy. And since I will return to Venezuela very soon, I wanted to say this in person to you. On July 28, 2024, we changed the course of our history. That day was not simply a presidential election. It was an act of civic courage against the regime that controlled the institutions, manipulated the rules, intimidated citizens, censored the press, and turned fear into a system of governance. The Venezuelan people went out and defeated Nicolás Maduro by a landslide. They did so in a completely unfair and rigged election, and after years of humiliation, poverty, repression, and a massive exodus that has torn apart every family in our society. The people did it out of pride and conviction that Venezuela will be free. Hundreds of thousands of citizens became guardians of the vote. They protected the police stations, gathered the tally sheets, transmitted the evidence, and risked their freedoms, and in many cases, their own lives, so that the truth of July 28th could not be buried. Those tally sheets became more than electoral documents. They became the proof of a nation's will, of its soul. They became the evidence of a mandate. And that is why I want to speak to you today about an idea that for me sums up Venezuela's challenge and Venezuela's opportunity. The people are the mandate. The story of Venezuela is a story of millions of citizens who kept our country's sovereignty alive for more than 2 decades while the regime tried to extinguish it. They are ordinary people who voted knowing that their names could be recorded, their homes marked, and their courage punished. They marched knowing that they would be repressed. They raised their children through constant power outages, collapsing wages, dilapidated schools with no teachers, undersupplied hospitals, and the daily struggle to preserve dignity. Millions fled the country to feed their families and protect their children. Many flee the country to preserve their own lives. And yet, they never surrendered the idea that Venezuela was going to be free. These people are not the backdrop of this story. They are the protagonists. They are brave and they are peaceful, and that matters. Venezuela is not a society broken by religious hatred, racial conflict, regional division, or permanent civil strife. It is a country with a democratic culture, a civic instinct, and an extraordinary capacity for civic organization. Our people have suffered immensely and yet never lost their vocation for peace. They have been provoked, humiliated, persecuted, impoverished, and forced into exile. And yet, again and again, they have chosen ballots over bullets, organization over revenge, and civic discipline over despair. That is the moral strength of Venezuela. The events on January 3rd opened a new political reality. For the first time in many years, Venezuelans have begun to think not only about survival, but about their future. Fear has not disappeared. Repression has not ended. The structures of control have not vanished, but something profound has changed. The people have begun to lose fear. The country has begun to imagine what comes next. In a long, repressed dam, a small crack opened and has become unstoppable. And those who now hold interim power have also had to recognize something they did not envision and certainly not wanted, that Venezuela cannot be stabilized, recovered, or governed indefinitely without the democratic majority that expressed itself on July 2028. That is why negotiation is now necessary, not as surrender, not as revenge, but as a serious, firm, and responsible effort to transform a new political opening into a democratic solution. Because the people are the mandate, legitimacy is not a luxury. It is not a procedural detail. The country voted for change on July 28th and is eager to move forward without further delay. Legitimacy is the foundation of democratic reconstruction. It is what allows institutions to be trusted by locals and foreigners. It is what allows recovery to reach the nation. It what allows transition to become freedom. We do understand the urgency of stability. No responsible Venezuelan wants chaos. No serious Democrat wants revenge, collapse, or disorder. A country emerging from repression, institutional destruction, and economic ruin needs order. It needs a transition that is peaceful, credible, and disciplined. That is why we recognize the strategic value of the US government framework built around institutional stabilization, economic and social reconstruction, and democratic transition. Venezuela needs the three of them. Institutional stabilization requires institutions. Economic and social reconstruction requires trust. And democratic transitions require free and fair elections. We fully recognize the importance of that framework. Our responsibility is to help make each stage credible, peaceful, and democratic. A successful transition must become a national settlement, and no national settlement in Venezuela can endure unless the people are in the center. That is why we must never, never be afraid of the people. The people are not the danger in Venezuelan transition. They are the guarantee. For many years, I assumed the responsibility of a resistance leader because that was what the moment demanded. Resistance was necessary, it was honorable. It kept alive the moral truth the regime tried to extinguish. But Venezuela now needs more than resistance. Venezuela needs governance. We must rebuild institutions, restore the functioning of the country, and create the foundation for a free democratic society in which power is limited by law, authority is accountable to citizens, and the state serves the nation. That will require discipline, it will require agreements, it will require coalitions broad enough to govern and strong enough to reform. It will require the courage to sit at a table with people who think differently and still find common ground in the service of the country. That is why a few days ago I went to Panama to meet with thousands of Venezuelan migrants and also with leaders from Venezuelan democratic parties. We came together around a peaceful, democratic, electoral path forward. We drafted and signed a document of national transition, the Panama Manifesto. It states and it recognizes the transition plan promoted by the United States as an essential strategic framework towards democracy. It proposes a grand national agreement for the recovery of the republic, bringing together political, business, labor, religious, and social sectors. It also expresses our determination to pursue a firm and responsible political negotiation with the interim regime, accompanied by the United States, to restore democracy in Venezuela. This is the way to transform the mandate of July 28 into a peaceful, orderly, and democratic transition. If the path to a peaceful, negotiated, and democratic solution requires returning to the ballot box under truly free and fair conditions, then we are ready. We know the Venezuelan people will ratify their mandate, and under free and fair conditions, they will do so with even greater force. In this Freedom Forum, I want to reaffirm a simple truth. Freedom without institutions is fragile. Governability without legitimacy is temporary. And a government without the people is not democratic. The only successful path is a path that places the people in the center, that trusts popular sovereignty, that understands that Venezuela are not the risks in this transition, they are the solution. Last week, a woman in Caracas described the reality we are living in our country in words that had stayed with me. And this is what she said. We are like a forest after a fire. The rain has finally come, and I can already see the steam rising from the earth and the first green shoots appearing. That image has not left me. That is why I'm going to return very soon to Venezuela. Because Venezuela is beginning to bloom again. And my responsibility is to create the conditions for our country to flourish. To freedom fighters everywhere, and especially to those in this room, the new Venezuela that is already rising will be a beacon of hope and liberty. It will be a land where families reunite and a base for the global fight against tyranny. Your struggle is ours. In our nation, you will have your fiercest allies. The people are my mandate. They are the source of legitimacy. They are the foundation of Venezuelans' democratic future. And then they are the reason why I know that Venezuela will be free. Thank you very much.
Tashidele, everyone. And I'm so happy to be here. The first song that we will do with, it's a little inspired by a little poem by 6th Dalai Lama. Drops of rain wash away the love songs written on the sand, but love, though unwritten, remains long after in the heart. And then asking the birds to fly freely and come back home. So. Okay, before we do the next song, just let me have a life of the water. Okay. And I want to thank Tor for inviting me, because it has been a dream to come to Oslo for me. Because I was just a 9th grader in Tibetan children's village in India when His Holiness was awarded Nobel Peace Prize, 1989. And that's when I knew about Oslo, and it became a place for me to visit at one day. So thanks. Okay. Before we go into this next song, this song I wrote it in 2008 when the Beijing Olympic was happening. So there was a lot of things, emotions arising. So the song is about feeling of freedom, moving forward elegantly. And so to do that, I would like you to scream the hell out and leave all your fears behind and think of what it feels to be free when you scream, okay? On the count of 3. Okay, 1, no, my Tibetan friends are excited. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. I've never had you clap for me this much. So we're delighted to have you here this year, and I wanted to contextualize something. I think it's important to go back to 1993 to a moment that was pivotal in terms of Richard Gere's activism, and a moment that kind of changed his life. So if we could go ahead and lower the lights and play the video, please.
I had a thought about something, actually, before I come in. I want to share it with you. It's going to be short. But I was really struck by this idea that there were 1 billion people watching this thing. It's astonishing. 1 billion people watching. And I was curious about what countries this was actually going to. And it is, in fact, being seen in China right now. And the first thought that came to me was, I wonder if Deng Xiaoping is actually watching this right now with his children and his grandchildren, and with the knowledge that what a horrendous human rights situation there is in China, and not only towards their own people, but to Tibet as well. And I was wondering if this kind of, if something miraculous and really kind of movie-like could happen here, where we could all kind of send love and truth and kind of sanity to Deng Xiaoping right now in Beijing, that he will take his troops and take the Chinese away from Tibet and allow these people to live as free, independent people again.
So that was a moment that took place in 1993 during the Oscar ceremony, and that moment in many ways changed your life. Did you suffered silence from your industry after you went off script like that?
Am I on? Can you hear me? I haven't seen that since I did it. This is really bizarre. This young puppy speaking his mind. I'm amazed that this guy that you just saw up there was able to express his version of the truth, but through a kind of compassionate wisdom that we're all in this together, even Deng Xiaoping, even his kids, even his grandchildren, as that
to do the kind of work that, I don't know, how many troublemakers do we have out here? How many?
More than 1,000. More than 1,000 troublemakers.
More than 1,000 troublemakers out here. But I think this is the thing to remember. Of course, we have to speak. The bad guys don't want us to talk, do they? And they don't want us to gather together. You see, that's the first thing that they do. No gathering of people, because they might come to a consensus that they have power and that they're not alone. And I think I was struck by the fact that 1 billion people were engaging in a similar vibration, albeit about movies, but the sense of joy and art and creativity also turns into a political movement. And the politics is not just about government, as you all know. It's about our hearts, of who we are, and the pursuit of freedom, of liberation for everyone is an internal process as well as an external one. I mean, this was a spontaneous moment. I'm trying to go back in my mind as to what I was feeling then. But this was 93, 1993. And we started Tibet House in 87, I think it was. I first met His Holiness in 81 in India, in Dharamsala. But this was a moment, I think, of purity that I hope I don't lose, that is larger than me. And within that, I think you all know this, if it's not me doing it, if it's not you doing it, the power is infinite. If it gets stuck in personality, if it gets stuck in our point of view, if it gets stuck in any way whatsoever, it's diminished. It's the vastness inside of us that expresses these truths in ways that really do penetrate, and they're very skillful.
Well, that sounds very Buddhist of you. And this is I mean, you've described a personal transformation through Buddhism, and that transformation, and you described this in writings and videos and interviews, and that transformation was happening at the same time as China was tightening its grip on Tibet. At what point did the spiritual become activism for you? And when did you first understand that speaking out was going to cost you something real?
We were talking before. He asked these little questions, and I've got to answer them in 30 seconds. It's
fix all the world's problems and tell me them in 20 seconds, please. Go.
There was another. This is reminding me of something. When I was 18, when the very first draft, military draft in America, was happening during the Vietnam War, and I was a conscientious objector, and I was very. I remember years and years later, I saw the compositions and essays that I had written. And my point of view as a conscientious objector is that I could not kill anyone. I could not take a life. And I was amazed at how much that was a part of me. Much of that came from my family. My father and my mother were extraordinary, empathic and compassionate people. But my voyage into Buddhism was kind of a natural process, I think, of discovery of who am I, why are we here, how do you make a meaningful life? And I remember when I had gone to see His Holiness the first time, I frankly had no knowledge of the political situation. I had no knowledge of the invasion. I had no knowledge of the over 1 million Tibetans who had been killed in the occupation since the 1950s. But I remember His Holiness, years after we met, and he was giving a teaching in Bodh Gaya, where the Buddha had achieved enlightenment. And I was leaving, and I was summoned to come and see him before I left. And essentially what he said to me was that, look, us Tibetans, We have no power. We have no resources. We're an exile community. We rely on our Western brothers and sisters to help us. And I really felt a strong sense of responsibility at that point. And being an actor, I could do these kind of things we just saw. I don't think it's a responsibility of famous people to speak. I think it's a responsibility to know something. And if the environment and your heart beckons you to say something, of course you should say it.
Well, that's actually a perfect segue into a discussion about the prize that you are going to be presenting this evening, or rather this afternoon. This prize is the Václav Havel International Award for Creative Dissent. And Havel believed that artists could do something that politicians fundamentally cannot. They can tell the truth in a way that travels through walls. And Václav Havel did this from prison with plays that no one was allowed to stage, but he could write them. And here you are presenting a prize in his name. Do you believe that it's still true that artists and that art can move people in societies and in authoritarian societies in a way that sanctions and perhaps diplomacy cannot?
Yeah, no, for sure. You know, every time the name Václav Havel comes up, there was one moment that we spoke, and it wasn't that long before he passed away, but he called me in New York because there was a presentation of one of his one-act plays, I believe it was, and he said, would you go there and do it for me, because he couldn't travel. And I couldn't do it because I was in the middle of doing something else, and it was my one interaction with him, and obviously I have regret that I was not able to do that for him and with him. I think, look, there's power structures of how you create change, and we all do it together. You know, the troublemakers in this room, you have your job, we have our job, but we have to work with other people and other sectors. From my point of view, and I'm not talking about myself, but the best artists, whether they're painters, actors, dancers, musicians, filmmakers, whatever, that are really extraordinary, speak for a culture in a very, very profound way, in a magical way. That they are the expression of the heart of a people. And every culture has those people that just touch them. And they're just magical. I mean, you see it in India, they're deities. But this kind of deifying of creative people is a profound energy. If you put that together with other sectors, with the troublemakers, with industry, sometimes with religion, you know, if it's vast enough and it's not tight. Certainly with media. That these different sectors coming together can create change, and very quickly, in a positive way. So I think we all play our parts in this. And we're, as we know, deeply interconnected. There's nothing that we do by ourselves. Nothing. Everything, my clothes that I wear, the chair I'm sitting in, everything that we do is involved with other people. Every thought we have somehow was affected by other thoughts. The deep, profound interconnections, if we can embrace that, then of course change is easy, with some courage.
More Buddhism. This is great. Great. You know, before we came out to have this chat, we had just been privileged to listen to Tenzing. I mean, I don't know about you, but that was profoundly moving. And there's, you know, when you think about this man and his family, he doesn't have a homeland, he's taken from him, he's in exile. So many members of his family have either been killed, imprisoned, or exiled. And you think to yourself, but why? And you think to yourself, what can I do to help this man? Because with that music, he doesn't have to tell me a story that just moves me on such a visceral level. of a culture that produces something so beautiful. Well,
there's something special about the Tibetans. I have to say that. And, you know, the Dalai Lama has a vast motivation. It's all beings in all universes to be saved. And I was speaking once, His Holiness asked me to talk, and I said, well, yes, we love this bodhisattva ideal of saving everyone, but maybe we can put the Tibetans at the head of the line and give them a little extra right now. But there's something, and we were just talking about it backstage, there's something for all of us troublemakers to always remember: humility and humor. That will save us all. Humility and humor. The bad guys don't want that.
You mentioned the bodhisattva. I can assure you that in this audience there are many Guanyins and Avalokiteshvaras, whether or not they know that they are that. There's a lot of people here like that really transmute that energy. What you've spent decades on this activism, and what I'd like to know is, what does winning actually look like to you? Not symbolically, but concretely. And what message do you have to the people that are here or that are watching in terms of what can they do tomorrow that they're not doing today with regard to this struggle for freedom?
Look, how many Americans out here? Okay. We're living in the darkest moment that I've experienced on this planet. Whoever thought America could turn like this? Whoever thought that a maniac like this would be president of the United States and dismantle, no, I don't have a plot. This is something for us to really communicate. Dismantle all the good things. America's never been a perfect place, but it has a perfect ideal that it's moving towards, and always has, and it's been self-corrective. First day, this guy dismantled almost everything that was good about the US government and the US people. How is this even possible? Because we went to sleep. We went to sleep. Wait. We went to sleep. We didn't care. We didn't vote. We didn't really listen. You know, of course I didn't vote for this guy, but I didn't do enough work to skillfully convince people around me, close to me, not close to me, that this was insane to elect this person as President of the United States. So we all have to take responsibility for this. But how quickly, this was in weeks, he had dismantled America. I was just in Dachau. I was working in Munich, and I had been in Dachau 45 years ago. I was working on a play about two gay guys in Dachau, a kind of amazing play. And I visited again, and the exhibition aspect of Dachau, the concentration camp, had changed. It wasn't about piles of shoes and eyeglasses and teeth and hats of all the millions of people who had been murdered. What struck me now is they showed the process since the 1930s, the transformation of German society and German government, and how quickly it happened there. Good people turned into monsters. And I saw this process in the US. We were talking about this. He's actually more optimistic than I am about what's going on in the US.
Far more optimistic.
But you see how quickly our world can be taken from us if we fall asleep. And we have to see the cues. We have to see the cues. This dictatorship of the monsters, how quickly it happens. We have to be vigilant. We can't sit back and go, life is good, I'm fine. You know, I've got food, I got money, blah, blah, I got my house, I got another car, I'm thinking about this, I'm okay. I know he's a bad guy, but it's okay. But it's not okay. It's not okay. It's never okay.
So on that note, I think we should...
But let me just follow that with... No, because this is the two aspects here. Yes, we have to notice the world out there, but at the same time, we have to notice the world in here. And that's where the humility and the humor makes the work out there effective. If we keep clean inside, then the process is one of self-burning. There's nothing left over, there's no residue. When we overthrow the bad guys, when you get the bad guys out of Venezuela, if it's done correctly, there's no residue, there's no hatred, there's no anger, there's no revenge. It's clean. And that's why the interior work is just as important as the exterior work.
That's a great note to end on. Now, we're going to be privileged that Richard Gere is going to present the Václav Havel Awards to our two laureates. So with that, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we do it here? What do I do?
They're going to stage.
We change the stage?
Yeah, we're going to.
Okay.
Perfect.
Oh. Yes.
That's excellent.
Václav Havel, playwright, dissident, statesman, believed that living in truth was the most powerful act of resistance.
The world first knew him as one of Eastern Europe's most powerful writers. He was in the vanguard of the wave that swept his country into the post-communist era.
Jedním jaksi fenoménem, kterému je třeba trvale čelit, jsou tyto diktátorské režimy a jejich způsob chování.
Havel's emphasis on living in truth, non-violent resistance, and creative dissent became core principles of the Human Rights Foundation strategy and approach. With the participation of his widow, Dagmar Havlova, HRF created the Václav Havel International Prize for Creative Dissent, celebrating those who wield art as a power for freedom.
أول مرة الشعب السوري اليوم بيقدر بيحكي بحرية. الفن كان وما زال لغة حريتنا.
This award is hope to those voices that are out there that no one is speaking for them.
I urge all artists to deploy their creative talents by protesting tyrants, not serving them. For art is not a band-aid, but a scalpel.
This year, HRF honors Gao Zhen, Chinese contemporary artist and prisoner of conscience, and Tsai, Burmese dissident artist and curator. Gao Zhen is one half of the internationally celebrated Gao brothers, whose works challenge censorship, propaganda, and the Chinese government's grip on history and public memory. In 2024, Gao was arrested at his studio with over 100 works seized. Yet even from prison, he creates. Tsai is a Burmese artist and pro-democracy activist driven into exile following the 2021 military coup. Through photography, installation, and public exhibitions, Tsai documents the human cost of dictatorship and the growing reach of the CCP's transnational repression, which he witnessed firsthand when the Chinese government pressured Thai authorities to censor his exhibition in Bangkok.
No podium. Hi. I'm going to read this, but I said, ask them to bring a podium out here. Okay. It just makes it easier for me. Okay, thank you. I just want you to know this is a great honor for me to be here. And with so many really committed people. You know, I come and I go, I travel around, I do a lot of things, but a lot of you in this audience, this is what you do. You fight every day. And sometimes it's a really lonely fight. Love saying love, I see you there. This is a moment where we're all together, not so lonely right now. And I think it's important for us to remember it. We're not alone. You go back to your offices, you go back to your small groups, and a lot of them here are ma human rights groups that are fighting a very difficult fight. You're not alone. Not alone, ever. The Václav Havel International Prize for Creative Dissent is an award for artistic innovation. It celebrates those who, with bravery and genuine commitment, unmask the lie of dictatorship by living in truth. For Václav Havel, living in truth meant an unwavering commitment to living according to one's belief in democracy and civil liberty. From Burma to China, this year's laureates remind us that creative dissent transcends international borders. Our friend Sai, who we just met a few minutes ago, Sai fled Burma, Myanmar, following the 2021 military coup, during which his father, former Minister Sai Lin Tuto, was captured and he was tortured by the regime. While advocating for the release of his father and other prisoners of conscience, Sai began using art to draw more global attention to what's happening on the ground in Burma. An active member of the pro-democracy protest movement, Sai has gained international recognition for his work, including a presentation at the Venice Biennale in 2022. Through photography, installation, and public exhibitions, his work documents exile, censorship, and the human costs of authoritarian violence. In late July 2025, Sai and his wife, she uses a pseudonym now for security reasons, his wife Kay, co-curated Constellation of Complicity, visualizing the global machinery of authoritarian solidarity, unquote, at the Bangkok Arts and Cultural Center, Thailand's premier contemporary art venue. But within weeks of the opening of this show, the Chinese government convinced the Thai government to censor parts of the exhibit, including references to Tibet, Hong Kong, and Uyghurs. Already living in exile from Burma for their safety, Sai sees what happened they had to flee, by the way. So Sai sees what happened in Bangkok as one of the clearest examples of transnational censorship and transnational violence. Later, I'm going to be talking about a new law in China, which codifies in Chinese law their ability to reach out into foreign nations and grab not only Chinese nationals, but anyone, US citizens, Italian citizens, Swiss citizens, Norway citizens, who speak out against the dictatorship in China. I mean, extraordinary. That law goes into effect July 1st, by the way. Meanwhile, Sai and Kay continue their work through the Myanmar Peace Museum, an initiative they co-founded to amplify the struggles of Burmese communities and preserve the memory of atrocities, very important, the memory of atrocities and cycles of violence for future generations. Please welcome now our friend, my friend, Sai. Absolutely. Yes.
My father is currently sitting in a solitary confinement in Burma, so this is my father's prison uniform. I don't know whether he's alive or even he will hear this message, but I'm proudly accepting this award in his honor and behalf of all political prisoners around the world. Dad, they abducted you, torture you, and imprison your body for over 5 years. They push us into exile. They destroy our home with an airstrikes. I'm so sorry to tell you that grandmother has passed away. And I'm sorry the prison will keep you from saying goodbye. They have forced us to mourn apart. And they took you. After that, I risked my life to leave Myanmar so I could tell our story, the story of a country being buried alive by China and Russia. When I escaped, I find people like you everywhere, like Jimmy Lai from Hong Kong, like Nargis Mohammadi in Iran, or Gao Zhang from China. Different prisons, same oppression. Authoritarianism is a network, so must the resistance. Dad, I stand here because many people carry me here. My wife, Kay. Yes, Dad, I married Kay. We built the Myanmar Peace Museum to collect evidence and art. And I stand here because of people who hit me, smuggled information, documented crimes, and on behalf of those who can no longer speak. And this award belongs to them too. I accept this award along with Gao brother with deep respect. And art travels where power cannot fully follow. And Dad, I hold on this hope that I will see you again. But until then, I want you to know this. They may have burned our home, they may have burned our books, but they have failed to silence me. Fire does more than destroy. Fire carries light, and light travels farther than fear. Thank you, HRF and Richard. I'm eternally grateful.
Well done. Thank you. Take, Sai.
We're supposed to put it back.
Okay, you want to put it back here? Okay. I messed up. I don't know the rules here. Okay, now we're going to honor a very special person, Gao Zhen, whose art bears witness to what authoritarian systems fear most: memory, solidarity, courage to question power. Gao Zhen and his brother Gao Jiang, internationally known as the Gao brothers, are celebrated for their bold works of critiquing authoritarianism, censorship, and the Chinese government's manipulation of history. The manipulation of history. It's manipulation of the truth, of memory. Please think of Tibet especially when we think about that. Manipulation of history. The bad guys don't own history, they want to. On August 26, 2024, Gao was arrested at his studio in Hubei province. His studio was raided by approximately 30 police officers, and more than 100 artworks were taken away. The Chinese government claims that their works defame, unquote, national heroes. Their satirical pieces critically question how the Chinese government elevates rulers into idealized symbols, curates a mythologized history, and erases dissenting interpretations. Gao is charged under the vague law of, quote, slandering heroes and martyrs. The law was enacted in 2018, about 10 years after these cited works were created by the Gao brothers. Gao Zhen, his health continues to deteriorate while he is in detention after prolonged time in solitary confinement now. But even in prison, Gao continues to make art with what is available to him. Meanwhile, Gao's family suffers collective punishment, although Gao and his wife, Yaliang Zhao, are lawful permanent residents of the United States, and his son is in fact a US citizen. She and their son have been barred from leaving China to return home since his arrest. They now live under constant state surveillance. In April 2026, Human Rights Foundation submitted a petition to United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention on his behalf. No one should be detained for artistic expression. Unfortunately, Gao Zhen's wife is unable to join us now because she is not allowed to travel. I'm going to share now some words that she sent from her to us. She writes, "Good morning, distinguished guests. The Human Rights Foundation and members of the Havel Prize Committee. Today it is with a heavy heart, but also deep honor, that we entrust friends to accept this award on our behalf. Václav Havel once called upon us to live within the truth, searching for historical truths, continuously creating new art, and persistently speaking honestly is also Mr. Gao Zhen's creed. However, at this moment, he sits behind bars for over 600 days for his art and dedication to depicting reality. As his family, we are also banned from leaving China and unable to travel to this free country. We deeply regret not being present to express our gratitude to each and every one of you. Our son is about to turn 8 years old. In the days separated from his father, he always devoutly prays, Almighty God, please quickly bring my dad home. I want to go back to school in New York. This prize is not only a validation of Gao Zhen's artistic accomplishments, but also an encouragement for those who continue to think independently and use their artistry and words to express their freedom, even under cruel and harsh repression. This award affirms that even while the body can be held captive, thinking freely and having courage cannot be confined by prison walls. I hope everyone can embrace their freedom. I thank the Human Rights Foundation, the Oslo Freedom Forum, and the Havel Prize Committee, and all friends who continue to pay attention to Gao Zhen's situation. Because of you all, we are able to bravely confront injustice and patiently wait for Gao Zhen's return. May he have time to be with his son and return home to New York. A small spark can ignite a great fire. As long as the truth is not extinguished, art is the eternal life. Together, these artists show us that dissent is in fact deeply human. I think we all have that spark, whether we call it that or not. I think just the breath of life in us is artful, it's creative. Through courage, memory, and creative expression, this light in us refuses the silence. We have to honor that. As Václav Havel once wrote, if the main pillar of the system is living a lie, then it is not surprising that the fundamental threat is living the truth.
Hi. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, there's been a slight change in the programming. So the awards committee for the Havel Prize, we usually do 2 laureates, maybe more laureates, and this year we decided to add a 3rd laureate, and at our meeting a month ago, we decided to have this 3rd laureate, but we had a conflict because the 3rd laureate is Richard Gere. And so it was like, how are we going to have him present the award and also get an award? Awkward. So we just decided not to tell you. And he has no idea.
I wouldn't have come if I knew.
He has no idea. Surprise! So with that, I'm going to read the citation. I'm going to read the citation. So, in 1993, the most famous man in Hollywood walked onto the stage of the Academy Awards. At the height of his career, Richard Gere had just come off the biggest and most successful film of the year, Pretty Woman. He was at the very peak of global fame. Every man wanted to be like him. Every woman wanted to be with him. And every producer and director wanted to work with him. The world was open to him in every possible way. And that is precisely when he chose a different path. He could have read the script and walked away to applause during that Oscar ceremony in 1993. Instead, he paused and he spoke from conscience. He spoke about the horrendous human rights situation in China and in Tibet. He spoke about suffering. He spoke truth, knowing it would come at a cost. And it did. For less than 1 minute of speech, he paid the price for nearly 20 years. Doors closed, endorsements faded. He lost opportunities across major Hollywood studios. Platforms that defined success turned away. In a world where many people use causes to elevate themselves, Richard Gere did the opposite. He used his voice to elevate others, and he paid a price for it. His commitment in action since that night has been unwavering. He has shown up again and again for Tibet, from small gatherings to major global forums, from sitting quietly with former political prisoners in private, people who spent decades in prison, listening to their stories, to meeting presidents and prime ministers to advocate for human rights. He has not chosen the convenient moments. He has chosen all of the moments, and his commitment has been personal. When Tenzin Delek Rinpoche, a Tibetan Lama, beloved by tens of thousands of students, died after 13 years in prison, his lifeless body refused to his family. Richard Gere stood before the United States Congress, held up a photograph of the man, and named him to the world. His voice has never, ever narrowed. In fact, it has extended beyond Tibet to Uyghurs, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and many other places. Richard Gere is loved by millions of people in China, even as he is banned by the Chinese regime, because his message is not against the people, it is for dignity. Richard Gere made a choice to tell a truth that power does not want told, and to keep telling that truth over and over again, regardless of the cost. He chose conscience over commerce. He chose truth over comfort. And that is why he so richly deserves the Václav Havel Award for Creative Dissent. So, Richard, congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you.
Yeah, look, it was very, very sweet. I mean, you said very generous and kind things to me. But believe me, I don't put myself at the level that you speak about me. The people out here who really put themselves on the line every day, every moment, are way beyond what I'm doing. You know, I'm a song and dance guy, basically. That's my job in life. But I never put myself above, and believe me, much below almost all of you out here. So if you want to give me this award, I accept it, but I accept it for all of us, okay? Thank you.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you did.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
You did for sure.
With that, we're concluding, and if you could get on the buses, we will go to Transformator for lunch. Thank you very much.
They don't have to walk?
They don't have to walk, no.